What's up, riders? It's Jim from Caledonia Keys. So I recently had the opportunity to take out the Harley Davidson Pan America Special for a 24-hour test ride. Now, this isn't just unique to me. Anybody can set up a test ride, and I'm going to include some links and information as well on what you need to do just that. So let's get to it.
So what's up, riders? It's Jim from Caledonia Keys. So today I'm doing the 24-hour Pan America Special test ride that my local Harley Davidson dealer is putting on. People look at the Pan America sport touring bike, and what goes through their minds? They're like, a sport touring bike? Harley? Really? So I mean, at the end of the day, for years, many years, since what is Harley? Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 1902? Somewhere around there? Continuously operating. But what bikes are they known for? Cruisers, big baggers, sport touring bikes, not really their thing until recently. And so Harley is kind of fighting a little bit to overcome a bit of that prejudice that's out there. As soon as people see the Harley badge, they're not expecting to ride a decent sport touring bike. But that said, I would say they've done a pretty good job. I would be interested in those of you that are sport touring riders to get out, set up a demo ride with your local Harley dealer. I don't think all the dealerships are doing a 24-hour deal, but they'll definitely let you demo their bikes. As long as they have one there for you to demo. So what are the things I like about this bike? I've been basically riding it all day today. And it's smooth, it's powerful. It does have cruise control, which is standard. And quite frankly, that's awesome, because there are a few times there where I'm catching myself going much faster than what I think I'm going on this bike. So there you have it, cruise control. Use it. Not only does it give your throttle hand a bit of a rest, but it might stop you from getting those expensive autographs from the boys in blue. Now, one big thing that Harley did with this bike is the forks. I mean, the front forks actually lower when I come to a stop on the Pan America Special. Now I'm 6 feet tall, and I can just flat foot this bike. And that's when it's lowered. So when it's not lowered, I'm a little bit on tiptoe, which is okay, but it does feel a lot more comfortable when you can flat foot it. So what about some of the more vertically challenged riders? Huh, road closed, I'm not going through that way. Well, I can't really speak to the shorter riders, obviously, from first-hand experience. But if you are, say, 5'1", 5'2", this bike may not be for you. I'm not saying that you can't ride it, and I'm sure there are lots of shorter riders that do ride these bikes, and I'd love to get some comments from some of you as well as to how you find riding this bike. So moving on before I get myself into too much trouble here. Windshield. It's simple, it's adjustable, it's not huge, and it takes a lot of the wind off my chest. I love getting some air when I'm out riding. I was never somebody that's partial to fairings. I like getting the air. But this is just perfect because I'm looking over the windshield. It's almost like there's not one there, but it's just big enough to break the resistance. What else do we got? Little things, the mirrors. Again, the mirrors on this bike are substantial. I can actually have a good view of what's behind me. Now that said, I'm not going to forget to do my blind spot checks. But I'm not squinting. You know, like so many of those small little dinky mirrors you see out there. They don't really do anything. Not the case here. So again, as I come to a stop, the motorcycle actually senses it and lowers. So I can comfortably come to a stop, 1 foot down, right foot on the brake, ready to go. Some of you are wondering, well, I know I've heard it, some people think you come to a stop, why wouldn't you go into neutral? Well, listen to your instructors on that one. Think back to your MSF class. You want to be first gear ready. Why? Well, because when I look at these beautiful mirrors I was just talking about, and I see the bus behind me that isn't able to stop, I can actually get out of the way quickly. Alright, so that's it for safety tips for now. Lots of modes on this bike. We got rain mode, we got road, we got sport, which are pretty typical. We also have an adventure touring mode. So it was explained to me on the adventure touring mode, it will actually shut off a couple of the features again that are really awesome on this bike, but you don't want them all the time, and that would be your traction control. So this bike has ABS and it has a traction control for when you're going through the corners. when you're riding off-road, you don't necessarily want that to kick in, because you may want to actually skid a little bit when you're off-road. So you have that option. There are also a couple of custom modes that you can set yourself. So no lack of riding modes there if you're into that. The bike doesn't come stock with panniers or hard bags, but you can get them. The bike that I'm riding actually has some Harley bags on it, and I will tack a little bit of video on those at the end. It'd be a handy little bike. Well, I shouldn't say little bike. You know, it's a fairly substantial bike. It would be a great bike to take on a motorcycle camping trip, in my opinion. I'll be doing that this week coming up with my bike. It's not going to be quite as I don't know, I guess it's not fair. I've taken my bike motorcycle camping before. It's a mid-size cruiser, Triumph America, Viking bags on it. It does me just fine, but I have a feeling that if I was riding this thing, it might be a little more comfortable. The bike also has self-canceling turn signals. One of the things I most had to work on when I was a new rider, and actually took me a while, was remembering to turn off those turn signals. Even now, it's mostly muscle memory, but I have on occasion looked like a complete goofball because for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe I got distracted and I didn't cancel them. Well, Harley's got your back on this one. So you make that turn, it senses the lean, and it'll turn off your turn signals for you. And it's not really that delayed either. I was wondering about that, if it would be like a delayed canceling, but it actually happens pretty quick. Now you still can cancel them. Turn signals are on your left grip, so you just push left for left, right for right, and push in if you choose to cancel them yourself, which you may do, especially if you're just doing like a lane change or something. Again, it's the little things. You've got your range. Okay, so you fill this bike up, and it's going to let you know how many kilometers you got left before you need to fill again. If you don't have that, I think it's called an odometer. You figure out how much range you got on your bike by taking it close to empty once, and then you just reset your odometer, and when you get close on your trip odometer to that range, you know it's time to fill up. The bike is nice and smooth and nimble, so I took it through a few curves earlier, and yeah, it handles them just beautifully. The bike has a center stand. again, seems like a little thing, but when you can, say, work on your bike, such as clean and oil your chain without having to mess around with a lift or something like that, or a bike jack, that's a pretty nice thing too. I don't know why more manufacturers don't do it. And it really pulls, like I said. You know what? If you're not careful, you can be up to 100 kilometers in very short time. It's got a lot of guts. So again, I'm going to plug that cruise control. Find that speed limit. Cruise control is on your left hand grip. You're going to push once for cruise, and then you're going to set it. And then you can give your throttle hand a rest. So I got cruise control on now. I need to change it. I can do anything. Touch the brake, I'm just going to roll off on the throttle a little bit here, and instantly it's off. Okay? I can touch the brake, whether it be the front brake, the rear brake, anything is going to turn that cruise control off. Would I recommend this bike for a beginner? Not likely. I don't think so. Now I know some of you are probably gonna get a big bike anyway as your first bike, but honestly, you're further ahead to get yourself something a little smaller, right? Get your skills up. Make your mistakes on that smaller bike, because it's going to hurt a lot less dropping something like a Honda Rebel or a Yamaha V-Star 250. And when I say the Rebel, I'm not talking the 1100. I'm talking like anywhere from the 250, 300, or the 500. It's going to hurt a lot less to drop one of those than it is a $20-some-thousand bike. Now, I once had somebody ask me, why do you suggest or almost scare new riders that they're going to drop their bike? Well, look, I'm not trying to scare you, but the fact of the matter is, you probably are going to drop your bike. I'll tell you, I've dropped my bike, and I think at one point, anyone who's ridden a motorcycle that says they haven't dropped their bike, especially when they had a little less experience, may not be telling the truth. I won't go as far as to say absolutely they're not telling the truth, but odds are against it. Unless maybe you're just riding, you know, 2 kilometers to Tim Hortons and back, and that's the extent of your riding. Well, maybe. So we're going just a touch over the speed limit here on a back road, and I really feel like, honestly, I just kind of feel held up. It's like I just want to go. The bike feels slow, and it's not that the bike's slow, it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just got so much in it, so much left to give. So the bike is liquid cooled. We're pretty much going that way with everything. As the EPA gets more and more strict with emissions, it'll be interesting to see how much longer they can keep the air-cooled bikes out there. I don't know, just overall, it's just a nice, comfortable bike. Now, big disclaimer here, if I haven't said it already, I am not typically a sport touring rider. So I generally ride a cruiser, love my cruiser, but you know, after riding this, I could be converted. I mean, I could absolutely see why someone might go this direction. Especially if they want to go on, say, motorcycle camping trips. I mean, the one thing I can definitely do on this bike that I can't on my cruiser is lift my butt out of the seat Now we got some tracks coming up here. I could just lift my bum up, but I can tell you, based on the bumps that I've hit so far on this bike, and it is a single shock, but it's got a lot of travel, I don't need to stand up. I barely even feel the tracks. And I know on my bike, when I'm going over those tracks, sometimes I feel it. I really feel it. So just from, without getting into specs, call it my butt feeling on the suspension. Nice job. Now I imagine they'd have to do a nice job for those of you that are going to take this off-road. So if any of you have taken the Pan America or Pan America Special off-road, definitely leave a comment. Let us know how it handled. Now, part of the 24-hour test ride deal is I have 24 hours I can take this bike anywhere I want. So I could technically take this bike off-road. But I am not an expert off-road rider. And I haven't been on a dirt bike since I was a kid. It's all been street riding as an adult. So I don't really feel like the time to see how well I would do off-road is when I'm responsible for a $20-some thousand bike that I don't own. So sorry to disappoint you on that one. This review is just strictly going to be on road. It is a very enjoyable bike to ride. So I would recommend, if you're even thinking about a sport touring bike, go ride the ones that you're thinking about. Take them out for a demo ride. But hey, why not call up Harley, see if you can take one of those out too, just to compare. Now, like I said, this is their first crack at the sport touring segment, but I feel like they did a really good job on it. That said, I would like to hear from those of you that have a ton of sport touring experience. See what you have to say. It really is kind of impossible to give an in-depth review on a bike. I mean, even just riding it for a few hours. So, you know, the bikes that I've owned, that I've ridden for a few years, you've got the history, you know all the quirks. But I mean, you know, I definitely, I feel at home on this bike. I'll say that. So although I can't give you a long term, I've had this bike and ridden it for 25,000 kilometers review, my impression riding it for a few hours, all good. The bike doesn't feel heavy to me at all. Now, the kickstand is located, to me, in a little bit of an odd position. It seems a little bit forward, but there is a tang that sticks out, and you basically just have to put your, say, ideally put the heel of your foot on that to push it down. So the side stand is a little bit forward, but that's just something to get used to. And once you're used to it, not really a big deal. Alright, well, you know what? We should just take this for a quick little hop on the 401. So 400 series highways in Ontario. Speed limit is supposed to be 100. Actual speed limit, a little bit more than 100. So we need to get up to speed relatively quickly. Now, you saw in a previous video, I even got up to speed on the Yamaha 250 V-Star. So, I mean, there's no way that this thing's going to have a problem, but anyway, it should be a piece of cake. Just kind of interested in feeling how solid it feels at the higher speeds. This bike is off like a shot. I don't even think I needed a quarter of the on-ramp. So again, a great place to see how well the windshield breaks the wind, and it's good. I mean, I'm getting some air. But not much. It's like, it's ideal. If you like riding without a windshield, but you want some protection so you're not getting beat to death by the wind, I mean, they've kind of nailed it on this one. Beautiful. So the bike just feels solid on the road. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than just solid. I'm not feeling like I'm being pushed by the wind. And again, this section is over 100k speed of traffic. So it is an aftermarket exhaust on this bike, so it sounds a little bit throatier than the stock exhaust. I'm not really, you know, a loud pipes person. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I mean, this isn't too terribly loud either. But it does have a nice kind of throaty sound to it. I do want to mention that this video is not sponsored in any way. Okay, so the Harley 24-hour test ride, that's open to anybody. And I didn't call them up and say, hey, I'm a YouTuber, I want to do a 24-hour test ride. I just actually was talking to somebody at Harley and said, you know, we're offering this. He was actually, at one point, he was one of my students on a licensing course. So that was kind of cool. And he says, well, we're offering 24-hour test rides on the Pan America Special. So you should take one out. And I'm like, oh man, you know, the odds of me buying a Pan America might not be in the market for a $20-some thousand bike right now. But you know what? They just want to get the bikes out there. They want people to experience them, see what they're like. And I gotta say, I do appreciate it. It is a treat.